As a photographer, you and I are here to capture a moment and to make sure that they are magical and memorable. And when it comes to your visual communication and the process of capturing a photo, one of the best things you can do is invest in your tools. And right now, the global shortages of some of the best designed cameras are keeping those tools out of the hands of photographers. Today in this video, I want to talk to you about why the Xpro2 might be a good alternative or a stopgap solution while you wait for your X100v or Xpro3. The Xpro2 is a rangefinder camera body and style. It is a 23 megapixels APS-C, but that rangefinder, the way that it looks has a history to it. And if you've shot on Fujifilm, you'll understand that there is a bit of wonder, there's a bit of magic that happens when you shoot with Fuji. You feel a little bit more present. And the reason that you feel more present and more into the photography and more into the moment than any other camera is because of the way that it's constructed and designed. And the Xpro2 is designed in just the same way, to where you have your ISO, you have your shutter speed, you have your aperture, you have it in a way where it's accessible and you can actually see it and you can physically interact with it. And because you can physically interact with it, you know where it is. Diving through menus can get very cumbersome when it comes to shooting photography. And so if you're coming from a Sony or a Canon ecosystem, this is going to be a bit different, but you're going to find yourself being so present in the moment. The other thing that I like about this is that viewfinder can actually work as a rangefinder, can work as like a little bit of a hybrid that has some technology to show you where your focus is. Or the third is you can actually use the full EVF with just the flick of a button. The rangefinder style, like I said, is historic, it is beautiful, and it also gets a lot of comments whenever I'm shooting with friends or I'm out on the street. People will ask me, that's a good looking camera, is it a film camera? No, it's not, it's a digital camera, but it feels like shooting film and it looks like you're shooting film too. So that's a plus for the Xpro2. The second thing I like about the Xpro2 is Fujifilm, the color science and the film emulation has a really good look to it. And you might not want to get into film because of how the prices of everything are skyrocketing. And right now, to buy film, it's pretty expensive, and then to get it processed, and there's this wait time in between, processing your film and actually taking the shot. And so one thing that's nice about this color science and film emulation is that you have an immediate response, which is very, very nice to have. I think it's like a happy medium between being, 100% old school analog and this, new school microwave, I want it now. It's a very happy medium where it keeps you present, but the reward is pretty quick. And so I like that a lot. The film emulations are great. One thing I don't hear a lot of people talking about is the drive mode that you can have, where you can have bracketed film emulation, meaning you can have a black and white, film emulation. You can have a pretty cool film emulation, or you can have a really warm film emulation all on one shot. You take the shot once and then all three of those film emulations will show up. It's within your drive mode, and because of that, I think that is something that really makes this camera unique. I find myself gravitating towards the black and whites constantly. It almost gives me this really interesting way to reframe subjects or to think about the shots that I have just taken. And so seeing that black and white image first actually helps me with composition. When I go to the next, I can see what it looks like warmer, what it looks like cooler. And then it also has a raw file if you want to take that into Lightroom. But one of the benefits of the film emulation is straight out of camera, you can post that to wherever you need to post it to, whether that's to a client, to a website, to your social media. I really feel that these are so nice in the fact that you have something immediate. The third thing is the price. Right now you can find an Xpro2 used on eBay, or you can find it on any of the resale websites for cameras that are anywhere between $750 and $950. It's not a bad price when you think about everything you're getting with it. When you think about those megapixels, when you think about the sensor, stepping into the Fuji ecosystem, it really is a no-brainer. When all the prices of the new cameras have just skyrocketed. It's almost negligible to an extent, the Xpro2 to Xpro3, the outcomes of what you're getting. It's the experience. And Fuji has really done a great job on the Xpro3 and the X100v to really enhance that experience. And so what I will say is, Those have a better shooting experience than the Xpro2 or the X100F or even the X100. But what you're getting out of between an Xpro2 and an Xpro3 is almost a little bit negligible in the fact that, maybe the processor is just a bit different. And so for $900, getting into the Fujifilm ecosystem, I feel like is a great price. The Xpro2 is my everyday carry. F2 lenses are pretty small already. There's a 27 pancake, that's a 2.8. There's also an 18mm pancake that will give you like a really, really tiny, almost pocketable size. I mean, it's not pocketable, but it's, in reference to the X100v. And then even seeing this here, like the 23 on this, it's not bad. It's not too big. It's actually quite nice, and it feels good in the hand, even with the 23, the 35, or the 50. And so the interchangeable lenses for this actually make it a lot nicer. Specifically for me, I wanted different focal lengths. I wanted something to do portrait, something to do street photography, and I'm even thinking about copying that 18mm just for the wider shots. So yeah, having the interchangeable lenses on an Xpro2 for this price point is really nice. There is a fun factor when it comes to the Fuji system. I think for me, it's going to Fuji X Weekly and seeing what are the new film recipes, what are the film recipes that I could use for this camera, for other cameras. The other thing I like about Fujifilm is I like to go on Twitter and on Instagram and look at other people's photos. I feel like the Fuji fam is really like tight in the fact that you're looking at other people's photos, you're looking at their work, and whether it's for a hobby or whether you're like a serious professional, everybody is taking the work in. They're looking at it, they're giving it its time and its space, and it feels like no other camera manufacturer has that right now. Fujifilm has really created a community with those film simulations. It's awesome to see what people are cooking up. And so the fun factor is there. I was on a walk with a friend, and we were walking down, I think we were in Oceanside, and we were walking down right by the pier. And I was just taking photos, and we're having a conversation, and the conversation didn't break. And the reason for that is because of this form factor of having all of your stuff, knowing that you could just turn some knobs and you don't even have to like really look at it. You're here, you're there, having that conversation with somebody else. You take the photo and then you're back in the conversation. It really is fun because it gives you that, like I said, that film, old school rangefinder feel of shooting film, but then you really can't mess up because if something's wrong with the photo, hopefully you'll have enough time to take it again because your adjustments are right here. Super easy, super simple. Fun factor cannot be overlooked when it comes to the Xpro2. So finally, I think the Fuji Xpro2 is a great starting point to get into the Fuji ecosystem. Maybe you saw a TikTok and you're like, I want that X100V because it's so beautiful. It is, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful, beautiful camera. But what I think is if you're somebody who's like a photo enthusiast, if you want to document your life, if you just want to document the kids growing up, if you're thinking about street photography and you don't know if you're really going to get into it and venture out that much, the Xpro2 is really, really nice to get into the ecosystem. The other thing too is like if you're somebody who wants to have a hybrid camera where you could shoot video, I think that this is a great video camera for like a TikTok or even like Instagram or even Twitter. You'd have a film emulation baked in, which is pretty nice. And so with that being said, you like shoot it and you're ready to go. So all that being said, this is a great starting point, but don't discount this camera. If you think that you want to get into photography, like wedding photography or engagements, I've used an X100, the original, for engagement photos, and those have been some of the photos that the couples are asking for the most prints of because it has this unique aesthetic to it. The Canons, whenever I had the 5D Mark whatever and the 51.2, beautiful, sharp, crisp images, but they were clinical. And it feels like when you have an Xpro2 and you're shooting engagements or weddings or events, that these just tend to be a little bit more fun, and that fun is translated in the film emulations and your client sees it, or whoever's wanting to see it, they see that it's different. This is also great as a second camera if you want to give it to somebody who's maybe not that technical. Just put everything into auto mode, give it to them and say, hey, capture some behind the scenes. The thing about that is this camera is going to give you a good look out of camera no matter what you do. You really can't go wrong with it. So if any part of this video you found helpful or exciting, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And if you are interested in anything that is photography, videography, or visual communications related, you should follow this channel. It's called Fancy Pants Media, and we're here to help you tell better stories. So we chat again. Much love.